Hi, welcome back. This is Life After Love with Kim and.
Kim.
Okay, so the last time we were talking about signs and we were talking about our children and some of the signs that they also experience. So we would thought we would talk about children. Um, we're not the only ones that lost. Our children lost also. And being a mother, when you see your child hurting, it hurts even worse.
You want to take
So,
that pain away.
absolutely,
And I tell my kids
absolutely.
that all the time. I said,
So,
I would love to take your pain
not
away.
only are you grieving the loss of your spouse, but then you see your children grieving the loss of their father, your grandchildren grieving the loss of their grandfather. And it's heart wrenching. It's absolutely heart wrenching. Now, Kim and I were blessed in the sense that I guess we say blessed. I don't know which one's worse. But both of our husbands died from cancer, and we knew. So our children were able to be there. Our children were able to visit. Our children were able to say their goodbyes. Um, so is it a blessing? I don't know.
It's
Other
a
than
blessing and a curse.
it is. It really is. Those of you out there that have lost someone immediately, um, again, I can't imagine how that feels either because they're there 1 minute and gone the next, and that's got to be horrific also.
I worked with somebody like
Yeah.
that. Her husband passed away suddenly
Mm.
last July, so
Mm.
or 2 Julys ago.
Mm.
So it's coming up on 2 years
Yeah.
for her, and
Wow.
um, she's. I haven't talked to her in a little while, but when it first happened, I couldn't imagine her pain. And then 3 months later, I had my pain. My
Yeah.
husband,
Yeah.
I lost Chris.
Right.
Actually, I shouldn't say I lost Chris. I know where Chris is. Chris was taken from me
Absolutely.
3 months after that.
And that's pretty much how I feel too. That my husband was taken. Um, I know they say only the good die young, so Kim and I often say that because our husbands definitely were too young to leave us. Um, but when it comes to the children, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to lose a parent. I don't care how old you are, how young you are. It is your parent. It's something you never ever want to think about. You never want to think about your parents not being there. And when it happens, there is a definite loss. There's a definite hole. There is someone that you leaned on, someone that you trusted, someone that had been there from the moment you were born, and now they're no longer there. And I know my children feel it every day. I know Kim's children feel it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's very difficult. I know I have two children that are married with children of their own, and they also had to take care of their children because they were grieving the loss of their grandparents. Um, and they're doing little things too. I know Kim just had the graduation with Justin, and my 10-year-old grandson is graduating from fifth grade. And he has chosen to bring something of his grandfather's to his graduation service
That's awesome.
because normally
That's
Joe,
awesome.
no, normally Pap would be there.
Pap would be
Pap
there.
would be there.
Absolutely.
I know at
Absolutely.
one point he wanted to stop wrestling because Pap was at every wrestling match, egging him on, and he wanted to stop wrestling. And my daughter said, "Pap is still watching you."
Yeah, keep
So,
going.
Yeah. So
Don't
then
quit.
he
Keep
kept
going.
he kept going.
That's great.
But
That's
those are
great.
little things that and I know Easter. My granddaughter was over Allison, and she's 8, and it was a very sad day. It was our first Easter. Like we talked about first at one time, and Allison just stopped what she was doing, looked up, and she goes, "Mima, Pappy is having Easter with Jesus,"
Yes,
and
he
it just
is.
it comforted her. It comforted her. She immediately thought, "My Pap's up in heaven for Easter,"
That's awesome.
and it comforted her. So
And she's 8.
she's 8.
And children
Yeah.
look at things so differently.
Absolutely.
And that's a great way. If
Mhm.
that's a great way to look at it, and if, as you said, if that finds her comfort,
Absolutely.
if that brings
Yeah.
her comfort,
Yeah.
go with
Yeah.
it.
Absolutely.
And just take her lead on
Yeah.
that, and that's what
Yeah.
you have to do with kids
Um,
too. And ourselves, we have to take our own
Mhm.
lead. Like whatever I'm feeling that day, I just have to go with it. I just have to roll
Absolutely.
with it.
Absolutely.
You have to feel your
Mhm.
feelings and
Mhm.
feel those feels. You got to get the feels, and
Absolutely.
you
Yeah.
have to
Yeah.
embrace those, and you
Mhm.
have to you just have to hang on because that's all you have.
And I know that when Joseph was dying, he planned his own funeral. No one should be surprised. Um, and he
So
asked
impressive.
both boys to speak at the funeral. And later on, I said to them, I said, if you guys cannot uphold that promise, I get it. I absolutely understand it. And God bless them, they were both able to do it. And I thought that was remarkable that
That's
they were
great.
able to do that. And they should have been the ones to do it. It was meant to be because they had all those memories and things like that. And the pastor that we chose actually was a young man that grew up with my children, so he knew Joseph too. So it just kind of worked out.
Yeah.
But I do want to get into a couple other things as far as children goes. I know that um, unfortunately, when children get older, they tend to parent us. Okay, so part of
try.
this process is as Kim and I are maneuvering our new life, our life with, after love. Um, some of the children have some of their own ways of telling us how they think it should be. Um, well, unfortunately, I got news for them. This is not their life. This is our life. Okay.
Everybody's different.
Everyone's different, and this is our life. And if we choose to go to a movie together one night, or we choose to go out and sing karaoke, then that's what we're going to do. These are things we did before, and we're going to continue to do them. And we don't see anything wrong with it. We don't think we're being bad people. Um, some people think that we should be sitting at home and doing absolutely nothing. Um, I know that in the Hungarian culture, the wife has to stay home for 1 year, cannot leave the house for 1 year.
Oh my!
Yeah, cannot leave the house for 1 year.
And you're Hungarian.
And I'm Hungarian.
I didn't know that.
I'm American, so I'm not doing that.
No, no, no.
But
No,
they,
but you have a Hungarian
yeah,
lineage.
they literally cannot leave the house for a year. They have to stay home,
I didn't know that.
and everyone brings food to them and things like that because that's the honor. I don't know if you remember watching Gone with the Wind.
Just briefly.
Okay, so in Gone with the Wind, when her husband was killed in war, she had to wear black, and she had to wear black every single day.
Oh.
Most
didn't
people
know
wear
that.
black to the funeral. Yeah, because when she was at that dance, and Rhett Butler wanted to dance with her, she was in a black dress. So,
Scarlet?
Scarlet, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she had to wear black because she was in mourning. And of course, the aunt was all upset because she was dancing, because she was not allowed to dance, because she was
interesting. I
she
didn't
was
know
in
that.
yeah she was in mourning.
Huh.
So different cultures have those types of things. But again, the children, how they look at this and how we're going to maneuver our future. Again, that this is our life and this is how we're going to do it. So many things like, are you going to sell the house? Are you not going to sell the house? Are you going to do this? Are you going to do that? When I'm ready, I will sit down and have those conversations with them because, that's who's going to be planning our stuff.
Right,
Who's going to be
absolutely.
the them.
Absolutely.
And Go ahead.
Also, just my kids haven't said a whole lot, but I just brought it up, just not in the recent past. I just we were talking about something, and they said, "Well, you'll never get married again, or you'll never date again." I said, "I don't know. I don't know what my future holds." And
Right.
they're like, "You'll never do that. You can't replace Dad." Well, no,
Yeah.
I would never replace your father. You can't replace your father, but I'm allowed to live. I'm allowed to love, and hopefully somebody will love me. But they don't understand that.
No,
They're looking at it from
Yeah.
Dad's gone and you're done.
Yeah,
you
that's
you
it,
had
yes.
one chance,
Yeah.
and I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what my future holds.
Absolutely.
But it was interesting how they were just so adamant. They're like, nope, you can't replace Dad. You shouldn't do this.
Mhm.
And I said, well, we'll talk about it if and when the time ever comes.
Correct.
But
Right.
but it was interesting
Mhm.
because they must have been thinking about it, because like all of a sudden it came
Yeah,
up and they
yeah.
were just like, blah, they exploded.
Yeah, we really haven't talked about that, but I feel my kids would probably be the same way.
Yeah.
And my grandkids definitely would be the same way.
Yeah.
That type of thing because of the relationships that were formed and bonded, and there's just certain things. Like, I know one of the things my granddaughter said to me was, they always said, we're going over to Meemaw and Pappy's. And I said, Ellison, it's still Meemaw and Pappy's.
It is still me, Mom,
know,
Pappy's house. Yeah.
But that's what she corrected herself, and she said, "Oh, I mean Meemaw's," and I said, "No, it's still Meemaw and Pappy's. It's always going to be Meemaw and Pappy's home."
Right. Right.
But just little things like that. And it is difficult for the kids, I think, to come to the house. I really do. I know my daughter Autumn was just home this past weekend, and she's like, I just miss him. I really miss him because when they come home, you know, when they're not here, it's they're just living their life, and when they come home, it's reality for them.
For them, and
You
it
know,
hits them.
But
It slaps
you
them in
and
the
I
face.
live that every
We
single
live
day.
it every
you
single
know,
day. My
every
kids
single day.
won't even go in Chris's bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
They won't go anywhere near
Yeah,
Chris's
and see,
bedroom.
that's just it's something that they just don't want to do, and unfortunately, that's something we have to do every single
Every
day.
day,
We have to do that.
24/7.
You know, yeah.
We live this
Um,
life.
And I do want to talk a little bit about. We talked about children, but I also want to talk about other family members. I know one of the things that my sister-in-law said to me was, "Am I still going to be your sister-in-law?" Absolutely. If you want,
If you want to.
if you want to, you can be my sister-in-law. That bond did not end with the death of her brother. You know, I've been her sister-in-law for 38 years. I will continue to be her sister-in-law. I thought that was an odd question, but you know, there are people that feel like that. There are people that feel like that. Like, I don't know, did they not like us to begin with? I don't know, because two of my sister-in-laws have pretty much nothing to do with me and have not heard anything from either one of them. So,
But did you before everything or not?
I did from the one. The
Just
other
one,
one, it was
okay.
kind of estranged, but
Okay.
yeah, I was kind of shocked. Still kind of shocked though.
Okay,
You know, because
yeah.
we were married for so long.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I haven't heard from my brother-in-law, but that's not unusual because we didn't have a close relationship before.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not. I, I don't know the word I want. I guess I'm not surprised that we haven't talked in so
Right.
long because it went months and months and months before we would talk. You know, before Chris, or since he's been gone, we haven't talked. But well, a couple times. But prior to that, it would be months and months before we would talk. So nothing really in that aspect has changed. So I'm not. I don't think
Okay.
that's it,
I just kind
true
of
for me.
I just kind of wanted to mention that because I want you all to know that unfortunately this is common. You know,
It can
just
happen,
just
of
like
course.
friends abandon you and don't know what to say and don't want to be around you. Family members also, you know, they don't know what to say to you either. And you know, as I said, your husband's side, does that change? You know, do they no longer invite you for things? Do they no longer include you in things? And the fact is, you still have their children. So you know, you would think and hope that that would be included, but
that would be the
but
bond
not
or
all,
the
not,
common
yeah,
the common
not
denominator.
always,
Nope.
not always.
And I even
you
have
know.
had people on my side of the family that some of the people on my side of the family, many of them have not lost contact and have supported me in this
Wonderful.
journey.
Wonderful.
But there are some that have not, that I haven't heard from in over a year. So, but is that common from before? Maybe, maybe
Okay.
not.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think it goes both mom's side, dad's side, you know,
Right.
like mine and,
Right,
and
right,
Chris's side.
right,
So
right.
I don't think there's
And it does.
there's
It
a huge
really,
difference.
Yeah. And it does. Like, and then I myself, I mean, I know there was a baby shower about 2 months after Joseph passed, and I just decided not to go because I thought everybody's going to be going. They should be celebrating the mother and her child. And I knew if I would have showed up, it would have been like, "Oh, Kim, how are you doing?" You know. And I really didn't want that. I really didn't want that. I couldn't handle it.
And in the first few months, you don't
Yeah.
want to be around
No,
people.
and,
You
and
just
I
don't.
knew I wasn't going to be able just to go to that shower and
You
just
don't
be
want
me
people.
and do it. I knew it wasn't going to be able to happen.
No.
So I opted not to go to that. But I do want to talk a little bit about telling young children about death. It's very difficult. It's very, very difficult. One of the things I will say, and I ask that you do not tell them that they're sleeping. That is
True.
Please
Right.
do not, you have to be honest with them. You can't tell them they're sleeping.
That's too scary.
It's very scary.
You don't do that.
There have been like, why isn't Pappy waking up? There have been children that have been afraid to go to
Go
sleep.
to sleep, exactly.
So please do not, you've got to be open and honest with them. Everything comes to an end.
And if not,
You know,
seek counseling, seek a professional,
Absolutely.
if you're not sure, like go to your primary care physician, or if you know somebody that is a
Absolutely.
counselor, or
Absolutely.
go to like a they have something here locally. It's called the Heartworks program.
Mm-hmm.
That's for children, like how children deal with grief and
Mhm.
how and their losses, and that's a really good program too. But there might be something elsewhere similar to that.
And there's so many things. You can make a pillow out of Pappy's t-shirts or Pappy's pajamas. You can make a teddy bear out of
Oh,
Pappy's
yeah.
PJs and
Or
Pappy's
whatever they
pajamas.
want,
Things like that.
Have them
Um,
help. Maybe have them do a craft,
Absolutely,
a craft hour or
absolutely.
something.
Make
them involved.
photographs, make an album, something like that. They also have to keep that memory alive, and they have to. That was a very important person for them.
And sometimes their memories are shorter. You and I have
Absolutely,
decades.
yes.
Some people might only have a few years.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
So
they
it's even
need-
more important.
Mhm,
It's even more important to keep those alive
and
because,
include them
yeah,
in that
absolutely,
decision.
absolutely.
Include them.
But I do agree with that, and I think that children are very deeply touched by things. I know one of the things that my children have said to me is, "I don't like talking to you about Dad because it makes you sad." And I get that, but the fact is that I need them to be able to share with me how they're feeling, how they're doing, because
Yeah.
they're still my children.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And we worry about them.
absolutely.
And I know when I start to talk about Chris, sometimes my kids will either change the subject real
Yep,
quick,
yep,
or they'll let
yep.
me share a memory.
Yeah.
One, they let me reminisce, and sometimes they say, "Oh, Mom, why do you talk like that?" Well, because I want to share your father, because there's some things that you didn't know,
Right.
like you saw him as Dad, not. And then when you got older, you saw him as your friend, your dad friend, but you didn't see the other intricate parts that I saw, and I want to share how I saw your father,
Right.
how he parented you,
Right.
how I was so proud of that, to be part of that, and I wanted to share that with the kids. And sometimes they accept it and they let me talk, and as I said, other times they just I'll change the subject. I want to talk about the weather or something. So and that's
And
very
again,
difficult.
but I feel just as it's difficult for you and I sometimes to talk about them,
Right,
it's
and
difficult
they don't
for
talk.
them.
Yeah, and
So,
they don't talk
and,
about it either.
We both said that we hurt when our children hurt. I think maybe they're hurting because we're hurting. So it's kind of a two-way. So finding friends that your children are close to be able to share. I know my grandson Adam. His friends were wonderful during that time, absolutely wonderful. They got him out of the house. They made him do things.
My kids' friends were incredible too.
Absolutely, and they need that because you and I did not have the energy to parent at that time. We barely could take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
So please rely on those people, rely on those friends that they have. Allow them to go and do those things because you need that time too, and you need them to be doing something normal. They've got to be doing something normal. They can't be sitting around the house and grieving. And honestly, like we say, Chris and Joe would not want that for us.
No,
They would not want us to sit around and be quilt. I can't quilt anyway.
No, me
Do you
neither. I
crochet
can't
or
knit.
anything?
No, I can't.
No, we
do
don't
that.
knit. We don't crochet.
No, my
We're just-
grandmother.
We're not that kind of camps.
No, we're not crafty.
No,
too
we're not crafty camps.
Yeah, my grandmother tried to teach me, but I was an epic fail.
Yeah.
So she stopped. She learned way long time ago not to teach me.
I would agree with that.
Thanks,
I've
thanks.
seen you have 2 left feet.
Yeah, whatever. But I can dance and I can karaoke. I can't quilt.
No, you cannot karaoke. No,
Yes,
we've
I
already
can. Yes, I can. Let's talk about what you were talking about before.
Okay.
About kids. Keep going.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway, getting them back to normal, getting them doing the things that they need to do, like get them back to school. Yeah, they can have a day or so off, but get them back to school. That's something normal.
But when they need to take a break,
Absolutely,
let them take
a break.
Yeah.
But I know that I took off a week and then I wanted to get back to work because I thought, okay, Joe wasn't at work with me, so that was normal for me. And so for those 8 hours, well, I thought it was going to be, but it didn't. But anyway, I thought I was going to have 8 hours where I wouldn't be thinking of him because, as I said, he did not go to work with me. But unfortunately, that did not work out. You know, the grief follows you wherever you are. The grief follows you in a car. The grief follows you in the shower. The
And it's
grief follows
exhausting.
you in bed. The grief follows you everywhere.
It's
And
exhausting.
it is absolutely exhausting. And I remember the first week of coming home from work and just pulling in and going, I have to go in that house. I have to go in that house, and he's not there. And I was just absolutely exhausted, absolutely. But yet I couldn't sleep. So
Right,
you know,
can't sleep.
that's another thing. You're exhausted, but you can't sleep.
And you just,
know,
and
yeah.
it's an exhaustion that sleep
Absolutely.
doesn't fix.
Absolutely. And I know you were saying about, you know, having the lights on and things like that.
Mhm.
And if that's what your grandchildren need or your young children need,
Mhm.
then so be it. You know, if they need the light on for comfort, let them have the light on
Yeah.
for comfort.
Yeah.
It's not going to hurt anybody, you know. And things might change. You know, things might change for them. They may do things that they didn't do before. You know, they may be more hovering. They might be wanting to stay around you more. Because they might be afraid of another loss, you know, and again, that's very,
Absolutely.
very common, very
Absolutely.
common. So the best thing to do would be just to continue to comfort them, continue to remind them that you're still here, that, you know, grandpa or grandma's memory is still going to be here, you know, she's still or he's still with you in various ways, you know, like Kim said, maybe getting some pictures, things like that, little lockets,
Mhm.
anything like that, that they have as a reminder that they can keep with them all the time, you know. Again, I don't see anything wrong with that. I think it's a way of keeping them alive, and that makes everyone feel better, you know, because I know I'd feel
Yes.
better if mine was still here. So,
Absolutely.
and all I have now are memories and pictures and things like that.
Absolutely.
But we're very blessed that we live in a time when recordings and things like that, because we have a lot,
Yeah.
you know, we have an awful lot.
For a while, I couldn't listen to Chris's messages that he would send me, and I couldn't listen to his phone.
Mhm.
I couldn't listen to that. My kids did, and they were fine with it.
Mhm.
But it took me a long time to be
Mhm.
able to listen to him because I was so afraid that I would forget what his voice sounded like.
Mhm.
I would forget the way he had these little um, the little tones to his
Mhm.
voice when he would
Mhm.
say certain things, or how he would answer the phone, or and so I did start to listen, and I'm so glad that I did, because and every once in a while I listen again
Mhm.
and again and
Mhm.
again.
I found a love letter from Joseph, and it was 100 Reasons Why I Love You, and it was when he was on a ship years and years ago. I think it was dated 1987 or
Oh,
something
my
like that.
goodness.
I know. And boy, were we corny. We were pretty corny back then. I think the kids would laugh at that. But one of the things that my daughter did was she got a tattoo in her dad's handwriting,
Hmm.
and she took each letter that he had written, and they made a tattoo in exactly his handwriting.
Yeah, I have to
And
find some
for her,
Chris's for
yeah,
the kids and I.
it's very
Yeah.
comforting. You know, she
Yeah.
looks at that; it's right on her forearm.
I have my mom and dad's writing on my
Mhm,
forearm.
Yeah.
I have to find some cards of
Mhm,
Chris's,
mhm.
and the boys and I want all
Mhm.
matching tattoos.
But
so,
it is.
But
It's just
this
amazing
is
how
comforting.
it's just amazing how those little things mean so much. I
Yep.
know the other day I was looking in my recipe folder there, and I found one of my mom had written.
Yeah. I have a couple
You know,
of my
so
mom's.
yeah, those things become so important. You know, right now you don't think they are, but boy, I'll tell you, when you lose somebody, they become very, very important,
Mhm.
extremely important.
And that's what I want my kids to have, all of
Mhm.
that too. We were
Mhm.
talking about kids, so I want to try to pass that down. Whatever I find
Mhm.
of Chris's,
Mhm.
I want to try to give that to them if they want it, of course. But
Mhm.
of and I know they do, but I just I think that they will look at it differently than what I'm looking at, memories or like handwriting, or things like that.
And again, you know, you've yet to have grandchildren.
Yeah, right. I don't have any
So,
grandchildren yet.
you know, when you have the grandchildren, that's going to be a way for you to tell them how awesome their grandpa was. You
Yeah.
know, that's going to be amazing. And you know,
I'm hoping that they use Chris's name somehow.
mhm.
Somehow, maybe.
That would be neat. That
Yeah,
would be
that
neat.
would be neat.
And again, yeah, a lot of people do that. They'll
Yeah.
use someone's name so that carries on.
Yeah,
You know,
I hope they do.
things like that. I know, one of the things that my children do is, they quote their father, things that he said.
yeah.
Well, one of the most famous quotes is, "Luke, I am your father." So Joseph would say that quite a bit. He would come up to one of the children and say, "Chuck, I am your father." Um, so that type of thing. So they quote him sometimes. So I don't know if
mine do.
your boys
Yeah,
do that
mine
too.
do.
Yeah,
Mine do
It's-
that
it's
too,
really-
and I do it
yeah.
too. I do it.
It's really funny, but all those times you thought they weren't listening, they actually were listening.
They were listening, yeah.
And even the grandkids too. They'll know what Pappy would have said.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
So that's kind of neat, and that keeps
that's
them alive
becoming
for us.
easier. It's
Yeah.
becoming easier to say those things.
Yeah.
For both the boys and I,
Yeah.
it's easier to say that. And
Mhm.
and like in an episode or two before, I said that I didn't yell at the dog, but he was jumping around, and I said I said just keep your fur on, and that and I
Something
just
that Chris-
said
yeah.
said that to him. I didn't yell, but I was like, just keep your fur on, and I thought, oh, that's Chris, and it made me smile.
Yeah.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
have said that months ago, or if I
Mhm.
would have said it, I would probably cry.
Mhm.
But now it makes
So
you
that's
smile.
that's
It's neat.
that's really awesome.
Mhm.
No,
The boys
I
do.
know, and so often something will happen, and I think, oh boy, if Joe were here, what would he have said, what would he have done, type of thing. So, and again, I think those are just ways of keeping them alive,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
keeping them here and keeping them with you and keeping their memory because, you know, they were the love of our lives and they will continue to be the love of our lives. And just because they're not physically here with us doesn't mean they're not here with us.
Correct.
And doesn't mean they're not still here with we see them in our children, we see them in our grandchildren. So many times I look at them and I think, oh my word, that's Joseph all over again, So
Absolutely.
the legacy will
Absolutely.
continue, So again, I hope something that we said might have hit a chord with you. It may have helped you in some way, dealing with, loss and dealing with, life after love, with your children, other family members, just as Kim and I have dealt with. And we'd like you to tune in again for our next Life After Love episode. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.